When we talk about manifestation, we are talking not about something just out of materializing out of thin air. It's a balance between intention and action. It can't only be intention and thinking in my head, and it only is not action. Even if a person thinks, I don't think, I just act, you're not aware of your thinking. I'm sure you know that there are thoughts that run everything in us. Manifestation is not passive wishing, it's not just thinking things into existence. It is not magical attraction in the way I'm looking at it right now. Manifestation is a belief driven behavior. So the first rule is what to look at. What do I expect? If there isn't something I want to see in reality as an outcome in my life, what are my closely held beliefs? And to examine, am I setting myself up for failure even before I begin? Or do I have my thought orientation, beliefs, or expectation to success in place? If I don't expect to succeed, doubtful that it's happening. So, what can we do about this? It will allow whatever you want into the consciousness. So, the key word here is your interest and your involvement, your emotions, and all of that. And then the brain starts noticing and things starts happening. For example, if I tell you, when you go out today, after, let's say you're going out after the session, do not look for red cars. What do you see? What does your brain notice? This talk is not about magical thinking or manifestation as we hear like a buzzword nowadays. I'm attracting, the law of attraction. I'm not going to dismiss those things and say that they have no meaning. There is a different perspective and approach to it. A lot of it is experiential and driven by people's descriptions and statements and their lived experiences. So I'm not going to say that it's all nonsense because I have some lived experiences too. And yet, the way our brain is designed, it works better when it can make sense of things. So in a way, if you're a firm believer of law of attraction and manifestation, and then things come to me just by my thinking, you might find some new things that you learn here. And for those of you who think there is nothing in it, you might be convinced into changing and finding a balance between those thoughts as well as how you can use the power of your mind. So today what we're going to do is we are going to look at the session objectives. We will look at the science and the psychology behind manifestation, explore neuroplasticity, habits and mindsets, and look at some practical tools for how do we take intentional action, actions that give you more success. Yes. So think of one achievement that felt impossible at some point of time for you. It could be at any point of time. And I think one which we may not be able to think, but felt impossible was when we learned how to walk. And when we were babies, I think to a baby, if it could really think, it seemed almost impossible to be lying down to become sitting and then vertical and then walking and running. To the baby, that doesn't look impossible, right? So, what do you think is your attribution to that success? I'm sure you overcome it. And when I say achievement, means you've got that. Any thoughts on what led to that achievement? How did you get it? Okay, getting up at 4 a.m. So what did you do? What made it possible for you? Okay, curiosity, efforts. Yeah. Some people are great on efforts and discipline, and they can almost override any kind of brain circuitry to make sure that they will get what they want. But even that is a habit. That is something they learn that by doing that, I can overcome almost everything. Consistency, yes, those are habits, absolutely. Just decided and started acting on it without thinking. Well, I'd like to think that that's how it would be, but actually everything begins with a thought at the conscious, subconscious, at some level in your head. Nothing begins without thinking. All of creation, you look around you, all of achievements, you look around you, there was some amount of thought that you put into it, including discipline. Absolutely, Abhishek, I agree with you. So everything goes back to our thoughts. So when we understand that, let's take a look at how do we use these thoughts to work for us. So when we talk about manifestation, we are talking not about something just out of materializing out of thin air. Manifestation is also it's a balance between intention and action. It can't only be intention and thinking in my head, and it only is not action. Even if a person thinks, I don't think, I just act, you're not aware of your thinking. I'm sure you know that there are thoughts that run everything in our life. So manifestation is not passive wishing. It's not just thinking things into existence. It is not magical attraction in the way I'm looking at it right now. If you were to look at it from the spiritual perspective, that's different. But you want to know what's really behind manifestation. It's attention direction. What I'm looking for is looking for me. I'm sure you've heard that line. Wherever attention goes, energy flows. Those are the statements you want to kind of be more grounded in, because that leads to us focusing on something, whatever that goal and outcome we're looking for, and then achieving it. Manifestation is a belief driven behavior. It's goal oriented action, it is consistent action, right? Now, that doesn't mean there is no role that our brain plays. It plays a very, very big role. If it was only action, trust me, I would have lost 20 kgs of weight by now. But that doesn't work, because somewhere in the other, the brain interferes, your thoughts interfere, your beliefs come into play. And unless you align all of them, you might realize that you end up with half achievements or no achievement. And wherever you have achieved, you will notice there is an alignment that existed between these things. So let's look at what is it that we want to focus on. Have you heard of this word, the self-fulfilling prophecy? So a student who believes, for example, I'm terrible in presentation. Now take a moment as I'm talking about this example to think about yourself. What are some of the beliefs that you hold about you? So that belief drives your perception, drives your behavior, drives your thoughts. So a student who believes I'm terrible at presentations avoids practice, because what's the point? I'm no good at it. Becomes anxious. And what happens when you're anxious and giving a presentation? For example, I started with this whole technical glitch of presentation not going through. And if I were to get anxious, obviously I would lose the train of my thought. All my preparation and the work that I did won't go as well. Of course, the slides presenting this way are not aligned with what I had in mind. But rather than focusing and becoming anxious about that, if I focus on I believe what I can do, that changes it. But in this example, the more you're focused on what I can't do, leads to more negative results. And what happens when you have negative results? Your belief is reinforced. See, I messed up. I couldn't do it. So, what is a belief? When I ask, what is a belief? What's the difference between thoughts and beliefs? Let's hear some quick thoughts from you. What is a belief? Having faith in yourself, okay? Belief is closer to our identity, okay? It is, yes, it's all of those things. But if I were to explain the word belief, thoughts are random, beliefs are not random. They are conscious, sometimes unconscious, but they're consistent. Thoughts can keep changing. So if I think, yeah, thoughts can change, yes, so can beliefs. But the thing is, when we keep thinking a thought repetitively again and again, and then it goes through this kind of a self fulfilling prophecy, it becomes a belief. We no longer question it. Now, the belief exists in our head as truth, because it's now become a lived experience. And that is why we have all these statements that we make. Oh, I'm very shy. I'm confident. Oh, I don't think I can ever lose weight. Oh, I don't. I have tried. Trust me, believe me, I can't get through this. Or I can. So it could be a positive or a negative belief. But a belief is very tightly held, repeated thought that we know and we believe is true because it's been verified. Okay. So let me give you another example of self fulfilling prophecy. So there's the psychologist Robert Rosenthal and a principal of school, Leonard, I guess that's his name, Jacobson. What they did is that in a primary school, where the class 1, class 2 students were there. They administered a IQ test, and they falsely told the teachers that about 20% of these students were unusual potential. They had unusual potential for academic growth. In realities, these were randomly selected subjects. There was no evidence to it. They did not have that kind of IQ. What was the result? By the end of the semesters, the randomly selected students showed greater academic growth. They showed higher IQ gains to their peers, proving that positive expectations dramatically shape reality. So, what is this is called the Pygmalion Effect, where high expectations lead to a measurable increase in performance. So, people who expect a higher result from, like, say, managers who expect higher result from their team tend to get that. Obviously, if it works in the positive way, it would also work in the if it was a negatively held belief. In case of individuals, when they have high expectations from themselves, then that self belief directs or dictates their performance. So those who believe I'm very disciplined tend to automatically find that, oh, they get up and they do things and things move fast for them, right? So the first rule is what to look at. What do I expect? If there isn't something I want to see in reality as an outcome in my life, what are my closely held beliefs? And to examine, am I setting myself up for failure even before I begin? Or do I have my thought orientation, beliefs, or expectation to success in place? If I don't expect to succeed, doubtful that it's happening. So, what can we do about this? So, let's look at how this actually connects to our brain. Now, thoughts and beliefs are some things we can't measure, but the biology of it is that we have something called the reticular activating system. It connects the spinal cord and the brain. It's like the gateway of our consciousness. You have the capacity, or your brain actually receives about 11 million bits of information per second, mostly from your sight and sound and touch. The brain's capacity to process is about 40 to 50 bits per second. So, what do you think happens to everything else? It's regulated, it's monitored by this gateway. It eliminates the excess that it thinks is not needed. The RAS will only allow 40 to 50 bits so that it doesn't overwhelm the brain. And what is its job? Its job is to get the brain to wake up and pay attention to whatever it needs to pay attention to. For example, you are at a party and there is a lot of noise and things happening, and all of a sudden, in all that noise, somebody says, let's say, your name. What happens? Immediately your attention goes because you heard your name. The noise is the same. Why? Because your brain or your reticular activating system is aligned to or is cued in to pick up the sound of your name and to make your brain alert to be to notice it more. Sometimes there are two people with same names in a room, and every time one person is called, you'll notice both attending because that's our alignment. So, how does this work? If I believe I'm disciplined, if I believe I can be successful, if I believe that I'm not confident, these are your programmed beliefs which this gatekeeper holds close to itself. It's like there's a gate pass. They have a gate pass. All the thoughts, everything that is in alignment with these beliefs is allowed into your consciousness. They can just walk in and out any number of times. They have like a permanent gate pass. So somebody, let's say, who believes that I'm not good looking, or they have a belief that no, I'm not pretty, or I'm not smart, and they get a compliment which says, "Oh, you're looking so good today." What do you think happens? What do? They won't believe that, yeah. Okay, so no matter they might be hesitant and give an awkward smile, all right, they'll make excuses. Yeah, actually today, maybe the light, maybe the dress, maybe the color, maybe this, maybe why. I don't know. Or even if they don't say anything, even if they smile and say thank you, the RS will discard that because it's not inconsistent with the belief. So no matter how many, and there might be other people in the family or let's say friends who say, I don't know why you don't believe me. How many times I've told you, you don't need to worry. You're fine. You look smart. You're good. You're intelligent, whatever. But it somehow never seems to register. The reason is unless you make a conscious effort to reprogram this belief, to re-examine, recheck its validity, and create a new gate pass for this belief now, it's not going to get entry. The brain will discard this as, or RS will discard this as one off case. So now there are people. Now let me link this to something that you might have heard. Have you heard about positive affirmations? If I repeat something a number of times, it will become true and I can attract that to myself. Heard that part? I will take your answer as yes, because that seems to be the buzzword around. What's really happening there? It's like when we start repeating affirmations, the RAS kind of starts becoming aware of something new. When we program it enough number of times and we say it enough number of times, it's like a gate pass is generated. And then the brain starts noticing and things starts happening. For example, if I tell you, when you go out today, after, let's say you're going out after the session, do not look for red cars. What do you see? What does your brain notice? Red cars. Let's say you want to buy a specific car and you've been taking a lot of interest. So, the key word here is your interest and your involvement, your emotions, and all of that. The RAS makes very quick changes when it notices you are interested in making that change. So let's say you want to buy a car, a Mahindra EV. What happens when you go out on the road? You see only Mahindra EVs all around you. So think of this RAS as unbiased gatekeeper. It will allow whatever you want into the consciousness. But it is a regulatory body. It's a regulatory system. So it's whatever it has been programmed to till now, it will allow that. It's responsible for your survival. Wherever there is threat, wherever there is any kind of a challenge, this takes kind of control, make sure that your brain, your body, all the things that need to get alerted are ready for you. Okay, so that's about your gatekeeper. So let's apply this to the previous example of teaching. So what happened? The teachers were given to believe that 20% of students are academically gifted. What do you think they did, the teachers, when this is a belief they have? They would notice students who are doing well. What would they do? I believe they are gifted. They would give them extra work, extra attention, possibly give them more approval or smiles. It is how it is, which is the climate factor, creating that climate for them. The students, what happens with them? They are receiving positive reinforcement. They are getting focus, attention, extra exercise, guidance, coaching, mentoring, and all that growth. They respond also with better development. All right. So that's how the RS work. So the self-fulfilling prophecy, in a way, is directly linked to your reticular activating system. So I see a question there. Let me take that now. Why do we see angel numbers from very longer time? That to all. So that's because that's what your brain or your activating system is primed to. You do see all other numbers as well, but your RAS has learned to alert you to 1111, to 1010. It's not like you're not seeing other time. All through the day, you are looking at time. But if you want to understand this from the RAS perspective, it's just that you're primed, or your brain is now primed to look at it. So it notices that much more. Okay. If there is a positive belief attached to it, that if I see angel numbers, then my work's going to get done. That's a positive belief. And then probably that self-fulfilling prophecy comes into play where it will get done.